Are you looking for all the latest pro football news and content? Of course you are. Who doesn't love football? The question is, how do you get all the latest pro football news and content? There's so many different pro football podcasts on the internet. Which one do you choose? Which one is the right fit for you? Well, you go with the Cross the Middle Show, one of the fastest growing football podcasts out right now. Over the past year, we've climbed the Spotify rankings, become a show you have to listen to if you're a football fan. Find out the Ravens will go all the way with Odell Beckham Jr. Find out the Eagles did enough to make it back to the Super Bowl. You'll get all of our best stories for just $1 per month. All you have to do is sign up by clicking the link in the episode description box. It's John Kuzma. Welcome back to the Cross the Middle Show. We have another great episode for you guys today. We're going to do 3 stories today. We got the Kenny Pickett story. We're also going to talk about Baker Mayfield, and then we'll talk about Justin Fields. So let's start with Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett did a great job in the Steelers' first preseason game. He had that throw to George Pickens. It was on a post route. George Pickens caught the ball, turned upfield, made a safety miss, and then scored a touchdown for the Steelers. This is exactly what the Steelers were looking for from Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. You know, everybody's wondering if these two guys can step up and lead this team into the future. And from the looks of it, you know, at least in that first preseason game, it does look like they're progressing. It does look like they're getting better. So you can see the development that they're having as far as Kenny Pickett and George Pickens goes, which is very exciting for this team because I think that's all you need to see from those two guys, you know. Clearly, they're a class above everyone else when it comes to the talent in this preseason. Now we need to see these two guys do it against the regular season talent, the 1s and 2s in the regular season, mainly the 1s. Kenny Pickett, you know, is a guy that made the most out of that opportunity in the preseason. Like I said, he hit George Pickens. George Pickens set that safety up to the outside, then went back to the inside, left that safety in the dust. So much of this team's success is dependent on those two guys. And if they step up and keep delivering for this team, then, you know, it energizes the fan base because their future, you know, hangs in the hands of Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. If those guys step up and, you know, keep making big plays like they did in that preseason game, then, you know, the Steelers might be back. And I think this was huge for Kenny Pickett because, you know, that year 1 to year 2 jump is supposed to be pretty big. And, you know, from what we saw in that game, you could see how much Kenny Pickett was amped up because of the throw he had to George Pickens. You could see how excited George Pickens was. From what we've seen in that preseason game, it was exciting because we got to see Kenny Pickett, you know, show that, you know, his work is done for the preseason. There's no point of sending him back out in the preseason and risk getting him hurt. They've shown enough. Like I said, their work is done when it comes to the preseason. Get those guys ready for week 1. Let's see if Kenny Pickett can keep doing it in the regular season. Let's see if George Pickens can step up and be the guy we think he can be. But it's definitely huge for the Steelers. It's huge for the Steelers that these guys came out, made that big play, and really set themselves up to have success in the regular season because now they're going into the regular season with more confidence. They were one of the big winners of the preseason just off that play alone. And it's an exciting time for the Steelers because if you have your franchise quarterback in Kenny Pickett, you have a star at the wide receiver position in George Pickens, now you have a foundation that you can build around. And those two guys are guys that look like the team might have hit on. I mean, it feels like Kenny Pickett and George Pickens, it feels like there's something there. It feels like those two guys can play, which is great news to the Steelers. Like I said, their future is tied to those two guys. Kenny Pickett, there's no more jokes about his small hand size anymore because when he's making throws like that and, you know, when George Pickens is, you know, leaving the safety in the dust and scoring the touchdown and when there's that much momentum on their side, there's no jokes about hand size anymore. Suddenly everybody's excited for Kenny Pickett. Suddenly everybody's excited for George Pickens. We'll see what happens next for the Steelers, but they seem to be in good hands with those two guys. The next story we have is the Baker Mayfield story. There's been debates back and forth whether, Baker Mayfield will start, whether Kyle Trask will start, who's going to be the guy that gets the nod for the starting gig. Well, Baker Mayfield came out and showed something in the Buccaneers' first preseason game. Baker Mayfield had a nice throw to the end zone, nice ball placement, put it up a little bit high, let it kind of arc over the defender right into his receiver's hands in the end zone. There was talks about, Baker Mayfield throwing too many interceptions in practice and training camp. Well, in this first preseason game, he has perfect ball placement on his throw right into the receiver's hands. And suddenly people are wondering, are we not dead in the water? Because a lot of people thought the Buccaneers would be dead in the water without Tom Brady. This team was, in a little bit of trouble with Tom Brady this past year. Just barely squeaked into the playoffs, got bounced by the Cowboys. People were wondering, is this team really going to be in trouble if Tom Brady isn't there? Well, Baker Mayfield's kind of keeping hope alive for the Buccaneers, because if he can come out and play some good quarterback, play good at the quarterback position, I guess is a better way to say it, then, maybe the Buccaneers are not dead in the water. Maybe they can surprise some people and still be competitive, especially with what we've been hearing from Mike Evans. It sounds like Mike Evans has really been playing great at camp. So who knows? You just never know. Maybe maybe Baker Mayfield is just in for a big season. He had some bright spots last year with the Rams. Had that big comeback with the Rams in one of those games where he really stepped up and gained some confidence. Now that he's with the Buccaneers, he got some weapons and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. He's making throws like that in the preseason game, perfect ball placement to his receiver in the end zone. You just never know. Maybe Baker Mayfield finally, takes that next step and really puts it all together with the Buccaneers and shows that he can be a big contributor for this team. If that happens, that NFC South isn't out of reach. It's a tight division with, the Saints and the Panthers and the Falcons. It's a tight division, and you never know how it's going to pan out because it's so close. But you can't write the Buccaneers off yet, and you especially can't write them off if Baker Mayfield is playing well. If he's stepping up and making big-time throws like he did in that preseason game, they're going to have a fighting chance. And then you add in Baker Mayfield's competitiveness and the fire that he plays with. He's such a passionate guy. It's a real possibility that he surprises some people and has a big year for the Bucs, and then they're still in the hunt in the NFC South, because that division can go either way. It can go, it can go Bucs. It can go any way, really. It can go Bucs. It can go Saints. Maybe the Falcons or Panthers step up and surprise the rest of the teams in the division. You never know. You got to feel like the Saints are close. The Bucs, have been on top with Brady there. Who's to say it's going to unravel with Brady gone, especially if Baker Mayfield steps up and plays some solid football for them. I don't know if you can stick a fork in them yet. Baker Mayfield is off to a good start. The training camp practices don't matter as much if, he performs well in the games. You're taking risks in practice, trying to figure out what you can get away with. You're trying to get used to your new wide receivers, your new teammates, being in a new environment. So there's a little bit of a learning curve there, and sometimes there's going to be times when you're not on the same page with your new teammates. Obviously, in the games, it's looking a little bit better. Things are finally coming all together for the Buccaneers, so that's good for Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. The other story we have is the Justin Fields story. So Justin Fields has been in a bad situation all of his career. The weapons that he's had have been so bad that it's held Justin Fields back, and he hasn't gotten a fair shake in the NFL because there's just nothing to work with. Well, fast forward to now, suddenly Justin Fields has some weapons to the point in that first preseason game, the Bears were looking good on offense. You know, he throws a bubble screen to DJ Moore. DJ Moore makes a bunch of people miss, off to the races, scores a touchdown, gets the party started for the Bears. Then I think they did like a screenplay to Khalil Herbert. Herbert takes off to the races, scores a touchdown. It's like, oh my God, Justin Fields finally has some help. You know, we've been waiting all this time. The Bears have been basically wasting Justin Fields' time with the lack of weapons, with no supporting cast at all, no help. Well, now he finally has, you know, DJ Moore, Herbert's looking good. It's more exciting. Chase Claypool's there now. He actually has an offense around him that can chip in and contribute and help make life easier for Justin Fields. He's been waiting so long to get this, and it's held him back so much. Well, now all that's about to change. It's about to be much better now that these other playmakers are there to make his life easier. And you can already see what it's doing for the Bears on the football field. I mean, Justin Fields throws a bubble screen just out near the sideline to DJ Moore, and he's off to the races for a touchdown. I mean, that's a pass, but it's really DJ Moore doing all the heavy lifting and getting all the yards for Justin Fields. Even though it's a pass, it's almost like just a little throw out to the perimeter. It's a nice, easy throw for Justin Fields. It's not like he's even throwing downfield. He's just throwing to the sideline area. DJ Moore caught it, read it perfectly, breaks some tackles, gets off to the races, touchdown. Then the screen to Herbert, you know, he catches it, you know, fouls his blocks perfectly, finds a way to get in that zone. So Justin Fields has the help that he needs. It's finally arrived, and now he's going to have a shot to put up some real numbers to the point where he actually looks like a good quarterback, because he's always been a good quarterback. He's just been held back by the lack of talent around him. Well, now he doesn't have that problem. Now he's going to be able to put up big numbers. Now we're going to get a real look at who Justin Herbert really is, because we haven't gotten that up until this point. That's all about to change. Justin Fields has finally arrived. And it wasn't because of him. It's because, you know, Chase Claypool, DJ Moore, Khalil Herbert, Cole Kmet. It's fine. All the pieces of the puzzle, the two new guys. DJ Moore's a new guy. Chase Claypool came over at the deadline this past year, but now it's all coming together. And it looks exciting for the Bears. I think Bears fans are going to be very excited for what they have coming up this season. Get ready for a much better version of Justin Fields. We're going to see it on the field. That's all I got for this latest episode of the Cross the Mill Show. Do me a favor and sign up for $1 per month by clicking the link in the episode description box. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm signing off. Have a great day.